What if Marilyn Monroe had lived? Part 2. Please check the description box or pinned comment for Part 1. This is based on research and my own opinions. Firstly, thank you so much to everyone who watched my first video and everyone who liked, shared, and commented. I appreciate each and every one of you. I was so angry when I first heard of an NC-17 rated Marilyn Monroe movie coming out. So it's been nice to be able to share my thoughts with other fans. As many of you have said, she was so objectified long after her death. Perhaps this is best exemplified by the famous Andy Warhol print, where he treated her just as he would treat a can of soup. Even though she underwent the Golden Age star system makeover, she wasn't manufactured, as proven by the countless actresses who try and fail to recapture her essence. Honorable mention going to Michelle Williams, who probably did the best job of capturing her. This is the person I grew up watching in films. Yeah. This was a person I grew up with watching in films, and I even read her half-sister's book. Afterwards, I too decided that I liked the look of peas and carrots and corn because they made for a colourful meal. I believe I've even read some current day nutritionists who recommended the same thing. Who knew? Marilyn was smart. As I mentioned in my pinned comment on the previous video, I made a mistake when I said that The Misfits was Marilyn's only film of the 60s. After all, she made Let's Make Love in 1960 as a contractual obligation to finish her contract with 20th Century Fox. I did feel that it had a 1950s sensibility in my defense, and some of you agreed. I said in the comments that she was supposed to be in old Chicago about the Chicago fire, but that was Jean Harlow. Oh, that'll serve me right for trying to write too many scripts at once. I apologize to anyone who was offended that I called Marilyn Monroe the 1950s Jean Harlow. Yes, Marilyn is the one who is most remembered today, even if Marilyn herself said that she was inspired by Harlow. I plan on making a video about Harlow in the future, by the way. Looking forward to that one. A fun one that completely slipped through the cracks was Vincent Minnelli's Goodbye Charlie, with Tony Curtis playing a womanizing man named Charlie, who is shot by an angry husband and falls in the sea. He arrives home after his memorial as a cute, amnesiac woman, supposed to be played by Marilyn, but eventually played by Debbie Reynolds.
Hello there. Hello there. Somebody put a letter in my mailbox. I saw your house on the story map.
It's fun to think of Marilyn Monroe playing this kind of role, but like Rain, the concept probably couldn't be made today. But it's a nice flip of the Some Like It Hot story. She was also scheduled to reunite with her Some Like It Hot director and co-star in Irma la Douce, which was given to Shirley MacLaine. Now, that has really shed some new light for me. In a lot of these scripts I'm writing about stars who are gone before their time, they always seem to make way for someone else. But until knowing this, I didn't realize that in a way Marilyn's untimely death had somewhat made way for the career of Shirley MacLaine, giving her both What a Way to Go and Irma la Douce. Funnily enough, None of these roles went to Jane Mansfield, despite what 20th Century Fox used to say to Marilyn Monroe to get her out of the dressing room and onto set. Poor Jane. A lot of you thought that Marilyn would have been great as Mrs. Robinson in The Graduate. I think Sidney Lumet was going for something very neo-realist and anti-Hollywood with this film. But when you hear Marilyn's natural, deeper voice, you can imagine her playing this more sophisticated, womanly role. Many actresses of the Golden Age went after this role, including Ava Gardner and Joan Crawford. Doris Day actually turned it down, perhaps mirroring what Meg Ryan thought when she turned down To Die For. I think Doris Day was very protective of her image, so I can see why she'd turn it down. Knowing that Doris was considered, I can imagine them considering Marilyn Monroe, and I think she would have been great too. Sue Lyon of Lolita fame was up for the part of the daughter, so if Marilyn had been cast, I'm pretty sure Sue Lyon would have played the daughter instead of Catherine Ross. In this case, would Sidney Lumet have still cast Dustin Hoffman, or would he have cast Robert Redford or Harrison Ford? Personally, I can't. Sorry. Would he have cast Robert Redford or given Harrison Ford a chance? Personally, I can't imagine anyone but Dustin Hoffman, but I think Harrison Ford would have done a great job, perhaps with his glasses. If Marilyn had worked with Harrison Ford, I could see her in the Star Wars universe, perhaps undercover as one of the stormtroopers, just as Daniel Craig would do more recently. Perhaps she could have befriended Carrie Fisher and guided her through the treacherous shark pools of Hollywood, as she had done before for Joan Collins. A commenter alerted me to the fact that Billy Wilder also wanted Marilyn Monroe for Kiss Me Stupid, which was a raunchy comedy about a jealous piano teacher. Orville Spooner, who sends his wife, his beautiful wife Zelda, away for the night while he tries to sell a song to a famous nightclub singer, Dino, who is stranded in town. Marilyn was supposed to play Polly the Pistol, which would make it the third collaboration with both Billy Wilder and Dean Martin, confirming my idea that they might have become a Rock Hudson-Doris Day pair, although this might have been their Send Me No Flowers, as the film flopped at the box office. Hitchcock blonde Kim Novak seems miscast as Polly the Pistol, which I think Marilyn would have really made work. They offered the role to Jane Mansfield, who I think could have done a great job too, but she declined as she was pregnant at the time, which disproves my thought that none of Marilyn's roles were offered to Jane. Oh well. Still, the way 20th Century Fox went about it, you think Jane would have gotten all of them, but them's the breaks. Perhaps I'll talk about it more in a Jane video. I also wanted to add that my screenwriter friend Chris Watt suggested that Marilyn Monroe would have been amazing in one of John Cassavetes' films. I looked up some of his work, and I think the film that I would choose that Marilyn Monroe would have been really good in is his film Faces, which was in a lot of major film festivals. Faces is about a middle-aged man who leaves his wife for another woman. Shortly after, his ex-wife also begins a relationship with a younger partner. The film follows their struggles to find love amongst each other. I think in 1968, Marilyn Monroe would have been the ex-wife, starting a relationship with a younger man, in a nice reversal of many of her films of the 1950s. Could have been fun, and she may have even produced it under Marilyn Monroe Productions. This film won awards at Venice, was nominated at the Oscars, and has been added to the National Film Register. So I think this would have been a very good fit for her, especially for her awards prospects. And I think it would have been really interesting to see what she would have done in that kind of film. Now, a recent commenter said that she could have been in her own sitcom. It's an interesting thought. I don't think she would have done Gilligan's Island, even though Tina Louise based the role of the movie star on Marilyn. After all, she was the epitome of the movie star. I just think she was too big of a star at that point to do regular television. You know, perhaps the Rain telemovie event for NBC would have been fine. I can definitely see her in the Betty White roles, such as in Maude and in Golden Girls. Can you imagine her in Golden Girls? She would have been amazing. The issue being that Marilyn famously had difficulty remembering lines. As Billy Wilder once quipped, she could remember a page-long monologue with no worries, but one line, it could need 30 takes to get right. This doesn't really bode well for sitcoms, which are filmed in front of a live studio audience like a play. That's why so many Broadway stars go into sitcoms. That said, if she could have found her confidence and got more techniques for learning lines, I can definitely see her succeeding in sitcoms, like Shelley Winters did in Roseanne. After all, she was one of the best comic actresses of her time, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I would have loved to have seen her in something completely different, like Morticia in The Addams Family. But honestly, I can't imagine what the Marilyn Monroe show would have been like. For some reason, I'm thinking it might have been a detective show. Who knows? Maybe we could team her up with Paul Lynde and they could have had some wacky adventures. Or it could have been just a nice family show, maybe like the Partridge Family. Who knows? As I said, I think she can do anything. A couple of you thought that she may have retired from acting and gone behind the camera as a full-time producer. Not to harp on it, but I can see her first project being the Jean Harlow biopic and giving Harlow the respect that she deserved. Perhaps she would have even hired Dorothy Arzner, one of the few female directors of the Golden Age. I seem to be quietly saying that she may have kick-started the revolution that Naomi McDougall-Jones has been championing recently. Is it plain that I think Marilyn could have done anything? I think it's pretty clear. One of you felt that she would have gone more heavily into the civil rights movement, and as this is still the day and age when most stars didn't publicly talk about politics, a fallout from the infamous Hollywood 10 perhaps, I think she would have followed in her friend Eartha Kitt's lead and supported Martin Luther King Jr. financially and done things behind the scenes. I do think that Eartha Kitt's blacklisting would not have lasted quite as long had Marilyn been alive. Like she did with Ella Fitzgerald, I can see Marilyn agreeing to sit and watch every show. And why not? Eartha is an amazing performer. One person did comment in a Facebook group that he had originally written an article on the very same subject as me, and during his research, he had discovered that Marilyn was alive and well and wanting to live out of the spotlight. I want to be alone, as Greta Garbo said. If this was indeed true, I hope that she was happy, obviously. Another person said that she'd been offed by the Kennedys, a very famous conspiracy, which honestly does seem likely considering how many plans she had, and as the commenter pointed out, she had just bought a house and was renovating So anyway, one way or the other, to paraphrase Betty Davis on the Dick Cavett Show, the loss of Marilyn was just tragic. But at least we still have her films, which we still watch, despite what the director of Blonde seems to think.
My, you look lovely. You really found yourself, haven't you? Well, Oh, it's so nice to see you, Isabel. Look, we have Estelle. How's your arm?
Now it's still as weak as a bird's wing. Well, I never saw anything like it in my life. It's magical. Just hope you realize you finally made contact with a real woman. My dear girl.
Come, Guido. I want to show you the rest. I've changed a few things, though. We've changed things around. And how do you like it? Oh, don't look at those or nothing. Gay just hung them up for a joke. I put your picture up in the living room. Come on, let's have lots of drinks. Come on. Oh, it's so nice and comfortable. I put your picture over there. Is that all right?
Well, you don't have to keep it out, Rosamond.
Why? Guido, it's part of the house. Besides, it's your house. Oh, don't sit there. Sit in the big chair. This must have been your chair.
Matter of fact, it was.
Isabel, put this on your arm.
Thanks, dear girl.
I used to do all my studying in this chair when I was still ambitious.
What did you study?
I was on my way to being a doctor before the war.
Well, you never can tell. Maybe you'll get ambitious again.
I'm going to tell you something, Rosalind. I spent 4 years in the war, did 2 tours, flew 50 missions. Every time I came back to base, I started to design this house. But somehow, I could never get it to look like my idea of it. Now it almost does. You just walk in, a stranger out of nowhere, and for the first time, it all lights up. And I'm sure you know why, too.
Why?
Because you have the gift for life, Rosalind. The rest of us, we're just looking for a place to hide and watch it all go by.
Amen.
Here's to your life, Rosalind. I hope it goes on forever.
And yours. And yours, Isabel. And Gay. Gay did all the work, you know.
Yeah, the rabbits are sure enjoying it, too.
You think you could break away from this paradise long enough to do a little mustanging?
Mustang? Now you're saying something. You been up in the mountains?
Took a quick look earlier this morning. I spotted 15 horses.
That's not too bad. Boy, I'd sure like to get my hands on a rope again. What do you say?
I will never understand cowboys. All crazy about animals. And the minute they got nothing else to do, they run up in those mountains and bother those poor wild horses. Shame on you.
Horses?
Oh, sure, honey. Nevada Mustang. Used to ship them all over the United States. Not many left. We'd have to pick up another man.
Dayton Rodeo's on today. We ought to be able to pick up a fella down there.
It's an idea. You never saw a rodeo.
Mm-mm.
Oh, you gotta see a rodeo.
I'd love to. Will you come, too?
I'm all set.
I'll get dressed up. Let's have some fun today.
That's a girl. Get going right now. Honey, when you smile, it's like the sun coming up.
Thank you so much. I'm still working on the James Dean episode and have written an episode about Robin Williams as requested by a subscriber. If you would like to request an episode, please comment below and consider subscribing if you want. Thank you for listening.